scream in my head and say, why? Why? Like,
That was
how can
probably my greatest pet peeve back on campus.
like,
Like you see someone with like this top of the line laptop, like you see like this.
Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Self-Taught Novice. So myself, that's your boy, Silas Benpo, and Eli Klimga and Maxwell Dankwa. Silas, last week you didn't come, so we sacked you and we sent you a query. But then after management spoke, we decided to get to bring you back because our listeners like you. Yes,
Sure.
and so can you tell us why you decided not to come?
So I missed. Hey, so far just one episode I missed. I didn't,
just one.
I wasn't around. I wasn't around because I was literally like touring Kumasi with family. Not exactly Kumasi, but different parts of Ashanti region family. And then when I came back, like I had lots of work deadlines to meet. So like there was this whole rush to like get things done and all that. So that's why I couldn't join.
Okay. In that light, Maxwell didn't come, so we've sacked Maxwell too. Yes. We've sacked Maxwell, so Maxwell needs to answer to our query. Anyway, Charlie, welcome. How far?
Charlie, I do. Well, thanks for having me today too, Charlie.
Yeah, welcome. Right now, Ellie will be a permanent replacement of everybody. So I'm sure the next episode, Silas will then come, and Maxwell will be here. Then the following episode.
I mean, if for consistency, I can boldly say I'm the most consistent person.
Hey, I am the most consistent person.
When it comes to consistency, you have to be there.
Exactly.
Honestly, cannot do. Now, but in terms of like, if you're not able to come, updates, communication. I mean, if I'm not able to come, I always give heads up that like, okay, this is what's happening, and all that. So you also know what happens. I don't give last minute updates. That's what I mean by consistency.
This shit, he knows himself. He's not here. He knows
Because you let us just be.
You guys are just fomenting trouble.
Oh, he done the same if it was to be on here. Like if it was up here, you would have done same. I mean, he does all the time.
You would have done same to Silas, so it's all good. Anyway, so before we started recording, we were having a lengthy conversation. I can't really talk about what the conversation was about, but then we ended up with the fact that we're talking about certain Intel and then what were you saying? I forgot some major.
I mean, we're talking about CPU. Should I say architectures?
What should decide your purchase of a laptop? Looking at the components and stuff. But then
being the nerds that you guys are, that is obeying and Ellie, they were talking about CPU architecture and all that shit. It wasn't just a regular laptop purchase decision.
Wait. You were the one who introduced the conversation about architecture.
You guys are the ones who brought the topic about
you guys relax before we get there. We missed a step. So Sarah, how's your week?
Me, it's been cool or stressful, should I say, because it looks like I took a break from work and then I came back. There was a lot of work to do and all that, so I had to like clear my backlog again. Yeah, but then aside, it's been cool traveling. I mean, it was my first time like actually like traveling or moving around since February 2020. So it was very refreshing and all that. So like, that's how my week has been.
Okay. Ellie, how about you?
It's been pretty good.
How's the situation now?
I mean, well, it's nice weather, staying indoors, working on stuff, and finally seeing progress. So
and Ellie was bugging me with VREP and then Ross.
Hey. I mean, I
He was on
finally
his
saw
regular net schedule. Sure.
See, so it's been one of those weeks where like a project you've been working on and struggling with for like weeks finally makes that like huge step forward. It's like you finally overcome one obstacle and then everything starts working fine until the next obstacle. So this week has been a pretty good one. It's
That's
Now
all.
that's a net
help
talking,
from
right?
Silas.
Just see.
Anyway, well, mine was pretty uneventful. Just another week.
Are you
Friday.
sure?
Hey, we did streets.
I'm
well,
sorry.
relating generally, it has relatively been uneventful. Let me put it aside so that it doesn't look like I'm lying. Yeah, it has relatively been uneventful, but then I mean we continue to live, and yeah, we continue to live, and so far there's life, there's hope. Anyway, so let's just quickly dive into the topic.
We
So
thank God for your life.
let me know your stance. So we have I think it should be an Intel versus AMD. Um, it should be an Intel versus AMD discussion. So
Uh,
no, not necessarily an Intel
Well,
versus AMD discussion, but then when it comes to purchasing, what's the name? Purchasing a PC, there are only two polar decisions has to do with the type of operating system because the type of what CPU, because when it comes to RAM, there are wide ranges of RAM sizes that you can choose, and everyone agrees that actually agrees that it depends on what you want to use a PC for when it comes to screen size. But then when it comes to what's the name, CPU, some people actually go all in for AMD, whilst others decide that okay, they're on the fence with what the Intel. So I think probably let's take that to the latter part of the discussion. But then when it comes to let's start with screen size. So display size. So if you are going for a laptop, okay, let me ask, Silas, if you are going for a laptop, which would you actually take? Which will you actually pick?
what I want, Anchor sir, on my heart. I like when it comes to these questions, like I sort of categorize it. What I definitely want, like from a luxury perspective, will always be a MacBook. But we're hinting, it's, it's just a luxury. Like it's just a, I mean, because I just like MacBooks just because of the longevity that comes with like Apple products in general and the sleek design, and macOS is pretty much good when it comes to consumer software. So that's what I prefer. But like on for something I used to work, another I prefer probably a Lenovo or a Dell.
Mm.
For Windows. So like yes. So for luxury and like for probably consuming content, entertainment, and all that, I'll go for a MacBook. But for work-related activities, I'll pick. I'll definitely pick a Lenovo because of the keyboard is like it's sort of touch on typing and all that as compared to a Dell laptop. So like a Lenovo laptop would definitely be my pick.
Okay,
A
so what
Lenovo
specs?
ThinkPad. ThinkPad.
What specs come to mind?
Uh, given what I do, I'll definitely say like 16 gig RAM. Right now you don't really need that much memory space. So if I want 2 gig SSD or even less 256, like most of the things I just probably be in the cloud or be doing like
But it's
data storage
crazy.
and all
It's crazy how we no longer need my space because
that.
my external is 1 terabyte, and that's what I use for my backup. And right now, how my backup is, there are very essential files, so I can't delete it. And I've barely crossed 400 gig, and I've had this for like
And you're using it for how long?
like 2 or 3
3 years.
years. I've barely crossed 400 because those days we used to put movies and songs and things on it, but right now there's Netflix, there's Apple Music, and the other streaming services. So you realize that it has
Yeah,
taken all that stress off. And what's the name? And the DD storage devices. It's crazy.
yeah, that's true. I think early one time was it early or someone or was it me? I don't know. Back in tech, I don't know. I know someone used to have like a 1 terabyte hard drive full of anime. I don't know. It was like
Failed?
his life. Yeah, Phil. Or
Wow.
was it? Nah, okay. I can't mention his name here, but it was Bila your class. This guy had a 1 terabyte hard drive full of anime, and he was so protective about it, like because obviously like 1 terabyte is a lot of data to be walking around with, and then if something happened to it, I'm sure he'll get a heart attack or something out of it.
Oh, something can easily happen to it. Easily.
I mean, I also had a 1 terabyte hard drive, and then I gave it out to someone, and then it didn't come back to me in the same state I gave to the person. So it's definitely heartbreaking to say.
Anyway, so Alec Plim, I think you use the latest machine. Is that your best machine or you two hinty?
When the latest machine.
Well, relatively amongst the three of us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Was that your best
Well,
or hinty? You settled for you settled for that spec.
it was definitely here. This was definitely not my first choice. I think at the time when I was buying my laptop, I think at that point, that was when Dell had just unveiled their G series laptops, the G3, G5, and G7.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had had my own way, I'll probably have gone for a G5. Except it was like way out of my budget. So it was just one of those things where you looked for the best value for the amount of money you had.
Okay. So what do you have currently? What specs? What spec?
So it's a 512 SSD, 16 gig RAM, 9th generation Intel CPU, and a 1660 Ti NVIDIA.
Do you have Thunderbolt or USB-C?
Yeah, Thunderbolt.
Yeah, you have a Thunderbolt. Do you charge via Thunderbolt or Barrel?
Oh, no. It's Barrel. The power consumption is way too much.
Oh, but right now, Thunderbolt, you can go up to 100 watts. Do you know Thunderbolts? No, Thunderbolts can go up to 80 or something. But
yeah, I think
100?
I think my power.
I think you can go as far as 100. Dude.
Yeah.
Depends on the laptop.
And Thunderbolts 4, you can go higher than that.
Yeah, mine is definitely mine. I think my power. This one is probably higher than 100. I'm not entirely sure, but
then
I think it's.
Can you charge through Thunderbolt on your PC? Because most PCs, even though they come with Barrel, you can charge with Thunderbolt. And for those who don't know, Barrel is the regular. Is the regular charging. The regular charging thing we get when like the HP laptops and the desktops. The HP laptops and Dell laptops.
The one that is like the one that is like the pin.
Yes, exactly. the way you just went HP desktops, that speaks to like how bad HP laptops.
HP hasn't really covered themselves in glory these past couple of years.
Because I used to own an HP laptop. I don't know if you guys remember. I was running some simulation on it, and then my screen started flickering, and then it created this black line.
Wasn't it After Effects?
Yeah, it was After Effects, and then some simulation programs I was running as well. So all that couple, Charlie, how much also into.
Yeah, so basically I currently use I currently use a 10 gig. It was 8, but I upgraded to 10, but sometimes I take it out there, the 2 extra, it doesn't even use. Yes, and then 1 terabyte integrated graphics. I think it's Intel i7. It should be the 8. I'm sure it to be the 8th generation or so. But I think I got this in 2017 when it came. So I think probably the 8th generation or so. But then if I currently want something, I'm very concerned about size and portability because it looks like how things are going. I normally do not like sitting at one place to work, and I like moving around. And I really, really want a fast system when I'm moving around. But anytime I come to my main workstation, I want everything docked. So I'd rather want something that's of a good screen size, let's say maximum 15.6 inches. But that one, it depends on the bezels, because the if the bezels are too big, you realize that the housing of the PC becomes very large. So then the whole thing becomes quite
Yeah.
bulky.
Right.
Uh-huh. And also too, I'm looking at something not less than 16 gig because of rendering and generally me multitasking a lot. And but then one thing I also to, as I last mentioned, 512 gigabytes minimum, because I mean 256 would be too small to run an OS at the same time have apps on your PC at the same time, probably dual boot with another operating system and still have enough storage. So that one might be too little to run the system. So I think 512 is a good size. But then one thing I'm really torn about is the importance of graphics processing. What's the formula of GPU? Graphical processing unit or graphics processing unit?
I mean, like people solve them. So
Yeah,
like
kind of
any of them.
GPU. Somewhat yes, yeah. So GPU. I'm torn between a dedicated GPU and an actual integrated GPU. One, because I do zero gaming, and oftentimes dedicated GPUs are actually marketed to people who actually game as compared to people who are everyday power users. Because I'll consider myself a power user than a gamer, because I run a lot of heavy duty apps simultaneously, like in and out, in and out. Sometimes both of them are running at the same time. There are some days where I have Photoshop and Premiere Pro and After Effects and even Encoder all running at the same time, because I'm communicating with each of them to do different tasks.
Wait,
That's actually
on
um
on on
mhm.
that your 10 gig machine. Wow.
Yeah, the 10 gig. So you see, so like I dey stress the machine to a
You
lot.
stress out. Hey, you
Okay,
stress out.
the machine. I just see right now the machine case you, sir.
Because
Cause Charlie, how you go feel they do this to all for 10 gig machine top? Like that be wild. Even
I mean,
16 gig machine go struggle.
for me, given my experience with like my HP laptop, because of that, I don't run things simultaneously at the same until it is very necessary to like actually run them. Because like given that laptop replacements year in year out, they are getting expensive, and then year in
Right.
year out, you'd also want to do more with it. So it basically looks like our consumption or our need for more is basically skyrocketing year in year out. So
Exactly. And
if you're like me and your pocket isn't that huge, you make do with what you have. Then you do this.
Charlie,
Should I say CPU or GPU economics, just to like keep your machine running for like that.
and even that's the thing. Almost like almost everything you are well, unless like you have the funds, the resources. What you are looking for is to make the most out of the small cash you have. So like for most people, the consideration will be okay, well, this is not exactly the best CPU, it's not the best GPU, but then it's the best of both worlds. And so you would end up going for that. And I think that's probably what happens in most cases. Like, because Charlie, if you're running Premiere Pro, you're running After Effects, you're running maybe at the same time, you are so much stuff. You don't want one components to become the bottleneck. Maybe you have like a really good CPU, all right, and some like AMD, some Epic, some Threadripper being your rig. Okay, cool.
Hey,
Then you are
terrified.
using like you're running some Threadripper then Charlie. Go and look at it, maybe your GPU or something. Well, okay, this is not necessary. Let's say a desktop, because you can't quite put a Threadripper in a laptop.
Yeah, that would too
But
bad.
then, yeah, but then see, you have like some rig you've set up, like you have a third report, then in the GPU you are using this maybe like what, a 1050 or something, like one of the older versions. Like you are going to end up having the GPU as a bottleneck, because the CPU is more than capable of handling all those tasks. But then where it has to hand it off to the GPU, then you have an issue. That's in the other key. And so you don't want like that sort of situation, which I feel like is probably something you are going to encounter if you are using integrated graphics. Well, at least the XE sounds promising.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
does.
looking at
But
yes.
oh yeah, continue. I was about to divert to another thing, so you finish.
Okay, looking at the specifications that were given during the release and this and the fact that it actually is comparable to the Nvidia MX330 430 lineup of the MX lineup of what's the name graphics GPUs, you realize that they actually may be at par, but the only problem is that they don't have the integrated graphics don't have their own cache memory. So that means they feed into your system's memory to
Right.
that's your
Yeah,
system's
in real
RAM
time.
to actually work. And that means that it will be spreading your RAM thin, and meaning that if let's say you have a 16 gig machine, it depends on what you use. Sometimes it may use 3 gig or 2 gig of that. So that means in effects you have about let's say 60 minus 3 13 to 14 14 to 13 gig left to run certain apps like Photoshop and things. If you are, let's say, rendering at the end, because if you are rendering at the end, you may need the GPU to actually facilitate the no, if you're exporting at the end, you may need the GPU to actually facilitate the speed of exporting. So it means that now instead of having an effective 16 gig, you have either 14 or 13 gig, meaning you're actually reducing the amount of RAM that could have been used to actually run a different application simultaneously.
Yeah, that's very true. And
Nothing to add.
the point I was about to use is that like given like the specification and the thought process you guys have put into like how like your GPU consumption and CPU consumption goes, reminds me of a scenario where I've seen some people buy like highly spec out machines and they use it just for entertainment.
Those
And
people then
then
they
I look
bore
at
me.
them and then I scream in my
Then
head and say, why? Like
That was
how can
probably my greatest pet peeve back on campus.
like
Like you
I,
see
I
someone with like this top of the line laptop, like you see like this beast of a machine, and basically all the person is using it for is typing up a few documents, watching movies, and I'm like, wow, I'm poor.
why? Because I think back in tech I came across someone who had who had a 32 gig RAM laptop,
Mhm.
and I mean no shade to like any female or anything, but it was a she, and then I asked her like, what do you use it for? And she said like basic like like just word, read PDFs, and then watch Korean series.
I was share the basement.
Or at the beginning.
Obey,
Yeah, I was not
obey,
mentioning this. I just saying that
obey.
I just came across someone like that. So, yeah, and hearing
Was she reading
yeah,
engineering?
no, she wasn't really.
Oh,
Was
there's not
really?
Hey,
a,
I
hey,
actually don't remember.
it's not a
and you go
person.
to the Vodafone cafe and you see someone toiling away with that is relic of a PC.
See, for those of you who don't know, Vodafone Cafe is like an entire cafe in Kenya State campus where like you basically see people like with all kinds of laptops, and then you see people with highly spec laptops and you'll be drawing
I think people
over
with
it,
actual
and you would
desktops.
ask them about like what did they use. Oh yeah, people actually bring this. I mean, you basically need something to get work done. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever gets the work
Mm-hmm.
done, you basically go
Yeah,
with it.
yeah.
By hearing that some people use it just for reading PDFs and Korean series.
Multimedia consumption. That's probably
Hey,
the like just the bare minimum. I mean, that's probably the envy speaking, but well,
Yeah, I mean it is,
oh
but then
yeah.
the ammonia is there, but then it also it has to be it's not exactly ammonia, but then it's more or less like a waste of resources, right? Especially financial resource. Because if you probably for that person's use case, if you got like a 4 gig laptop with let me see, Intel Core i5,
or
like
even an i3. Right now, even the i3s are
yeah, or
competent.
or yeah, especially if you get ones of like the 7th gen and 8th gen
Yeah,
going
yeah.
upwards, you wouldn't have that much bottleneck in terms of like your multimedia consumption for PDF and then casual watching like Netflix or movies and all that. You wouldn't need that much to like do it. But then people, since they had a financial resource, you just go with it and then But then there's also a scenario where someone said that I think he bought, was it a she or he? I actually don't remember. But then that person bought that spec down machine because of like the screen resolution. And then
Mistake.
it made me understand why people, I mean, because if you tend to realize highly spec down machines sometimes tend to have high screen resolutions.
Not
So in terms of
always.
that, it makes their consumption. Yeah, not always, but
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
what is the laptop?
typically, if you have a laptop that comes with a 4K panel would typically have at least a competent
system.
hardware.
Yeah,
Yeah,
otherwise it will the
yeah,
entire thing wouldn't even
Yeah, it
run.
wouldn't
That's
even be
true.
able to push. Yeah, it wouldn't even be able to push the 4K. So
I'm
it's
talking
kind
in
of like,
light
I
of
think.
no, I'm talking in light of full HD and OLEDs and LEDs versus LCDs with respect to
Oh,
screen quality. Because
but
otherwise you can have an OLED, but
okay.
then it's not really a high spec out machine.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the display technology, yeah. But I mean, I
I think
think even
some
for the
laptops
most
are
part,
quite fond of that though. OLED
yeah,
displays.
yeah. I mean, it's Samsung. They basically, it's Samsung. They and LG are basically like the leaders in that area. So it makes sense that they would fit their laptops with the new screens.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But in terms of purchase decisions, though, I don't know if it's our sector or something. But then in terms of OS, which one would you go for
That
and
one
why?
there's not
Like,
negotiable. Windows. Then you either move to
Yeah, I
Linux
think
or
I,
you
I
dual
think
boot.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, this is not negotiable. We shouldn't try and let Apple look nice. Like we should be clear from
why?
that.
Yeah.
Why is it?
Chromebook, right? They are not
I mean, the
existent in this
MacBook,
conversation.
the iOS is like using. Wait, no, it's not. Wait,
Mac OS?
what?
Mac OS.
Mac OS. Sorry,
Yeah.
Mac OS. Yes, Mac OS is a really great platform and all, but like in our context, like in the Ghanaian context, it really, especially that educational
Oh,
context, I
what do
don't
you
really
mean the
see it.
Ghanaian contest?
In the Ghanaian
If
educational context, I
so,
don't really
the
see
last
it
time
give
the
you
last
that
time
much.
I went out, I don't know if any of you have been to Ashesi. If you have, you'd realize the
It's a chassis.
the
It's
high
a
number
chassis,
of
gentlemen.
MacBooks you see. Like it makes you
Gentlemen,
wonder.
it's a chassis. It's
Nah, so here I can say it
But
is the
there's
envy
I'm
that
sure
is saying
it's either
no,
peer
no.
pressure or the apps they use
this.
are not this thing. It's they are crying inside because or maybe or no, it's a share so they're also rich. So because someone can actually afford a 16 gig MacBook, which goes upwards
Yeah,
of $2,000. But then you can get
Yeah, fair
an
point.
equivalent in Windows for about $1,000
half the
upwards.
price. 1,000.
Yes, about half the price. Even some even go as low as $990. So you the bab. So for me, it's either they
Yeah.
are crying inside or they are rich.
I mean, and I think there's also that the infrastructure provided to like, as in leverage those things. Because, for example, back like speaking to our experiences, back when we were in KNUST, most of the applications you needed to use, you had to get them yourself.
And there
Most
were
of those
Windows
things, but then
applications too.
yeah, and there were Windows
Yeah.
applications, but then like they provide like some of these things are readily provided over there, so it's sort of different. Well, I guess so. Well, then I have to take back my statement, but taking it in the context of that KNUST educational system that I experienced,
Yeah.
the best value for your money would be a Windows PC.
But I know people in Stanford. I have like two friends in Stanford who are currently studying CS, and they all use MacBooks because part of their curriculum they study SOTY or Search
Mhm.
Programming Language, which is like
You're
a
right.
proprietary programming language that was developed by Apple. So and
Apple.
Apple doesn't allow you to develop applications or even use their programming language on a different OS
Wait,
outside.
not even on a VM.
I mean, like, yeah, unless you provision on Apple VM. But Apple VMs are not exactly something people
Even
use
VMs in
or
general.
Mac OS they use.
I mean, VMs in general are not
Yeah.
really, but if you need, I
But
mean,
what's the
because
actual
for
importance of
example,
a VM besides just looking at how the operating system works? Because it doesn't take full
Oh,
I think
capacity of.
sometimes it gives you that flexibility to test things out without necessarily running them on your PC. Like there are some
oh,
applications where like maybe you built an application, you are not entirely sure how if it will play nice with your PC. I'm not going to run it on my system. What if it breaks something? Like,
Yeah,
Mm.
but aside that too, people actually deploy push your applications to VMs. So, for
mhm.
instance, depending on the application you're building, like if I was to build, given how strong the Linux ecosystem is for like data science and machine learning applications, if I was to build or if I was to develop a backend for an ML application, I'll definitely deploy it onto a Linux VM as compared to a Windows VM, given like the level of software support I'll get based on that OS. But then for regular things like let's say you're building a website or something where like you need proper screen display and how like it will probably function in like a regular laptop. Due to the diverse nature of PCs when it comes to Windows and all that, it makes sense that you deploy something like that in a Windows VM. So for someone like me, those are things I consider when in terms of picking a VM, whether to pick a Linux based on the support I'm getting for the use case I want to work with as compared to a Windows VM.
Me dem use to cry a waste. Anyway.
I mean,
But
it's all
but
use
but
case. It's use case
we're also
specific.
forgetting another OS which is Chromebooks.
Oh,
I
forget.
know
No,
Forget.
we are not going to dignify that.
I just I mean we are talking about OSs here, so I'll just and I've never seen anyone in Ghana use a Chromebook though.
And one thing I've realized is that most of the software, when you are downloading them, you'd realize that it's either Windows, Linux, or Mac OS compatible, but you never see Chromebook anywhere. So how did they get their applications?
Yeah, so Chromebook applications are basically for you to use a Chromebook, you need internet, and
Mhm.
for most of their applications, they are cloud-based. So that was the concept behind the development. So
Chromebooks.
you have like proprietary Google apps like Google Mail. Hey, I said Google Mail. Yeah, Google Mail. That's a Gmail, Google Chrome, Google
Google
Docs, and all
Sheets,
that.
Google
And
Docs,
you
all
get
those
free
Yeah,
things.
but
drive.
once you open them, oh, I mean everyone
Free
gets
drive.
free drive.
Yeah, everyone
So
gets
No,
what
free
I
you
drive
do
with
mean
their
as
email.
besides the 15 gig.
I think you definitely have one because Google developed this package for Google. Is it Google One? I don't know. Hey, why am I using Apple One for Google? Google has a package similar to Apple One that like that's attached to Chromebooks. So you get something
Mhm.
similar to that. From
Okay.
Google Photos to Google
Yeah,
Drive to
you're
Google
actually right.
Storage.
It's Google One.
It's Google One. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Wait,
In
I
my
don't
head,
think
it
it's
sounded Apple One.
wait, is it Apple One?
Wait, is that Apple One? Hey, what can I see?
Their subscription package, right? The one that gives you
Yeah,
all I don't think it's Apple One. Oh, wait, it's also Apple
yeah.
One.
It's also Apple One.
Well,
Ah, it's
I got Windows
I
One.
didn't realize this.
well,
No, but Google actually came out with Google One before Apple One.
yeah.
I
It's
didn't
been
realize that like
yeah. They have a
oh,
similar naming scheme.
so Apple go copy the scheme. That's not good. But yeah,
Anyway.
Chrome OS is basically web based. So but given a place like Ghana where you're not exactly assured of constant internet connection, a Chrome OS is exactly something suitable for this climate.
Asamo. Anyway, so right now,
Yeah.
we are still on the topic GPU integrated or dedicated. For me, it's
Dedicated.
dicey. It's dicey because
Dedicated. I don't really think it's much of a conversation.
you
I think
use
it's
No,
dedicated.
you use
I'll actually
dedicated.
pick both.
Yeah, I use a dedicated GPU.
Wow, I like so me
I mean,
okay, me I can't take a stance integrated. Alec Plim will take dedicated. Salas is taking both. Let's go. Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yes, Salas.
Okay, well, wait.
Okay, so should I take both or Eddie?
Okay,
You like to
okay.
take it? Okay, so for
Silas,
both,
you go first.
in my use case, the reason why I pick both is that obviously um when like I'm working on a particular project, let's say, since like I work within like the data science space, if like probably I'm training a model, having given that I've already bought my laptop with like a certain spec sheet in terms of GPU. There will obviously be some training parameters I want to achieve with my GPU specification. So having it integrated, that's fine. But then for dedicated, you have to like have a very huge use case in mind. Like for instance, you want to build like a gaming rig or a deep learning rig or something. That's when like a dedicated would make sense for you. Because imagine you're playing this game, is it Fallout 4 or The Witcher? Witcher 2.
Which
These
are three.
games, yeah, Witcher 3, The Witcher 3. These games are freaking GPU intensive. Like the processing power you need to like play that game is very huge.
Or
And
even the crisis.
yeah, and unlike Obin, who is not a gamer,
Mhm.
like aside like I play games and then I obviously need a GPU to do it. So for someone like me who basically wants to do both, I'll use my integrated GPU for work stuff, and then I'll use a dedicated GPU for gaming, just because I don't want to overstress the GPU I have for work related activities, other compared to using it as a recreational activity.
All right.
Silas, I feel like you've
You feel like a what?
well, Oben, what do you mean when you say integrated versus dedicated? Because based on
Intel,
Silas's
Intel
Wait.
chips,
What?
Intel.
yes, because the motherboard, the Intel chips come with integrated graphics,
Exactly,
like
that's
the
what I'm talking
UHD
about.
and the XE. And
Exactly.
dedicated are like the NVIDIA,
The
the
NVIDIA,
MX, GT,
the
RTX.
Oh,
GTX and all those things.
you know how I was thinking about it? I was thinking about
No,
the dedicated as an external dedicated
No,
GPU.
no,
That's
no,
what I
no,
was
no,
no.
no, no,
thinking
no, no,
No,
about.
no,
no,
no, no, no, no.
no, no,
Aha,
no.
because for
Yeah, so honestly, because that's how I actually think of dedicated.
nah. So
No,
the
it's
dedicated ones are the ones by like let me say GPU company. So like an NVIDIA MX whatever, an NVIDIA GTX or RTX.
Oh,
And the ones
okay, I
with
didn't
the
understand what. Yeah, I don't
yeah, the
understand that.
integrated are the Intel ones, the UHD
yeah.
630 and those things.
So basically, every
Oh,
laptop
okay,
that
so I
doesn't
actually
come with
split my
NVIDIA,
dedicated.
it has integrated. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, NVIDIA Horizon has
yeah,
integrated. Yeah.
Radeon, yeah, the Radeon graphics. But well, yeah, I mean,
Is it
I
Radeon? No,
still
no. Is Ryzen the CPU and Radeon is
Ryzen is
the
the CPU and
and
Radeon
Radeon
is
is
the
the
GPU.
GPU.
Yeah,
Okay, and they're all from
Yeah.
AMD.
yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah, yeah. So that me, like I said, dedicated because personally, I don't see the point of it. Like even the latest Intel XE that we mentioned previously,
Mhm.
that one's performance has been compared to the MX series of NVIDIA graphics,
Yes.
which have been relatively obsolete for years now.
Oh, really?
I mean, well,
I mean,
no, I
not
don't want to
exactly.
say
Okay,
I
right
don't
now
I mean,
the popular
obsolete.
ones
obsolete
are
in
the
terms of the
GTX.
standard.
Yeah,
Oh, right
even
now the
the
popular ones
GTX
are
are
the
being phased
RTX.
out. Is the RTX? We've moved
Yeah.
from the MX to the GTX to the RTX.
Because right now
Okay.
we're doing more ray tracing. So
Yeah,
since
so
ray
it's
tracing
like
is there, you need RTX.
yeah, and so even like what is probably the best available integrated graphics, the Intel XE, that's being compared to like what generations is probably not the right word, but let's say it's probably compared to something that was available from when like 4 or 5 years ago,
So
which is
apparently
like,
it looks
and
like
for my
no laptop has the RTX. Because most of the laptops have
Both laptops.
GTX.
Yeah.
wait,
I mean,
I
for
I
mean
any
know
the power draw.
RTX came this year, right? That's the new big
No,
one that
RTX
these
came
YouTube.
last year.
So which
No,
no,
one came this
RTX
year
came
that
no,
last
the
but
year.
for
YouTubers are
consumer based,
using?
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
but for
but that
consumer
was
based
that
laptops,
was
I
the
think they
30.
became
30
mainstream this year.
something. That
No, no, no,
huge.
no, no. So the RTX has been around for 2 years. We had last year we had the RTX 2080, 2080 Ti, the 2060, and then the Super.
But even
Okay.
right now we have the 3080s and all.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the 3080 is the current generation. The 20s are the previous generation. So there's the second generation of RTXs. So we had the GTX 1080. Wait, was it the GTX 1080 Ti also? Then I think from there we moved to the RTX. Then we've moved to the
Oh no, the GTX they had. I mean, they also had high levels. So you had the Tesla version 1, version 2.
Oh yeah, but
And
those are not consumer models. Those are more enterprise.
oh yeah, but I was referring to in terms of like the GTX.
Right. Yeah. We even had the
Category.
Titan series and all those things.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
okay.
all
So
that,
they are
yeah.
actually there are RTX models. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for
RTX is
laptops,
higher
yeah.
than GTX.
Basically,
Yeah.
yes.
That's
Okay.
because it uses ray tracing.
Ray tracing, which makes all sorts of wonderful things possible.
So basically, you're able to like interact. You're able to mix light and then virtual objects in such a way that the computer generated world is as close to real life.
Human, yeah, what you see with your eyes, like light scattering, defining textures and all those things. Like it's really yeah.
Dope.
And so I don't really see and to be honest, integrated graphics have not come close to dedicated graphics in a very long time. I don't really think they will catch up. So based on use case, like the Intel, like the dedicated graphic give you like way better performance than the integrated graphics. And like most of them come with like dedicated memory caches. Most of them like it's the performance is worlds apart. Even for example, my PC like this, I use a 1660 Ti, and I remember
You
sometimes I would
flex
have
on
to
us.
run
Flex on
simulations.
us. Flex on
I
us.
mean, wait, I have a car. Let me show you my car keys. But then, yeah, like sometimes I'm running some simulations and then like I go and come back and it's still running. And I remember I was doing this school project, like it was a machine learning, like I was doing this, like I was supposed to train this model. And basically, it was going so like I was trying to get by without actually engaging my GPU. Foolish, but well. But then I also needed the GPU to run another simulation. So I was hoping to cheat by training the model on my CPU and then run the other simulation primarily powered by my GPU. And like it was basically a waste of time because the training was crawling along. And like the training was crawling along, and I can only imagine. And when I moved it to my GPU, like it just went. It wasn't even that big a data set. Like it was something simple that I was supposed to do, and it just went quickly like that. I would definitely not be able to achieve that sort of performance with an integrated like graphics unit. So when it comes to integrated versus dedicated, I'm definitely team dedicated. I don't even think it should be a conversation.
I mean, it
Elias
is.
ended the
I still
podcast.
stand by what I said. I mean, I still stand by what I said by because it's not for every use case that you need dedicated GPUs to like actually run something.
So, Ellie, I want to ask, comparing the Ryzen 5 to the GTX, which one is better?
GTX.
Oh,
wait,
GTX.
no, wait, Ryzen 5?
Yeah.
Wait, nah, okay. You have
Wait,
to
what do you
specify
mean
the
Ryzen 5?
GTX
Yeah,
model.
AMD
Yeah.
Ryzen 5. Hey, sorry. Ryzen is the CPU. And so
Yes.
I'm talking about Ryzen 5 and Intel Core i7.
Ryzen 5 versus Core i7.
Yes.
When the Ryzen 5 and the different versions of it. I think there's 3000X and
yeah, the 3600X and all that. Let's see. When it comes to gaming performance, some way somehow, Intel has still managed to hold on to the lead.
Oh yeah, I mean like they were the front run or the should I say they were the front runners in like the entire like processing or semiconductor market. So more gamers or game production companies always have them in mind.
Yeah, they optimized for them.
Yeah, so that's a caveat there. Though.
But then when it comes to the more productivity based applications, I think the AMDs, like especially the Zen 3, like the current generation of AMDs are pretty, like they are relatively clear of their Intel counterparts. I
Well, I
mean,
mean, right now, everyone is beating Intel at its own game.
yeah. Why?
I
I
think
mean, they beat
this
them at
like
single-threaded performance. They beat them at multi-threaded performance. Like it's really. I also think it also has to do. I mean, AMD is currently using the 7 nanometer architecture, right? And Intel is still using the
Yeah.
10 nanometer, which means that basically AMD can pack more transistors onto their
Apple
chip.
is using 5 nanometer by now.
Charlie. But then, yeah, AMD can pack the 7 nanometers, which means they can pack more transistors onto a chipset than Intel currently can. And so it's just, I mean, just the top down view, like they just have things going for them. I feel like, and maybe Intel will catch up some way somehow with the
Catch up.
when they finally move to their 7 nanometer architecture.
which year did GTX come out and which year the RTS come out?
RTS
GTX
came out 3 years ago. 2 years ago.
No, 2 years ago.
And GTX came out
2
when?
years ago. I think 2015, 2014.
Oh,
I
okay.
I don't know if
I'm not. Give me a second. Wait, I think RTX was first unveiled last year.
Now,
Okay.
RTX is already like I've seen. I mean, the reason why I'm saying 3 years ago is because I've seen like obviously when Nvidia makes these things, their research institute already has access to it, so they already
Okay.
start working with it. And then I follow a couple of them on Twitter, so they basically come and talk about like their spec sheets.
Right.
So
Yeah. So,
if you use a
then that would.
Linux machine, you could do Nvidia. That's if you use a GTX or RTX, you could do Nvidia SMI like within your terminal and to give you like your spec sheet for the GPU and all that. So people used to have these discussions on my timeline. That's why I think about it in that way.
Trying to remember. I've honestly lost that train of thought.
In the previous episode, I heard you say it. Yeah.
So okay, well, I'm trying to remember. Silas made he said something about.
Now I was saying that the reason why I was attaching that timeline in terms of the GTX and the RTX, like their release dates as to like the people I follow on Twitter. So they basically work within the NVIDIA Research Institute. So basically, anytime they release them, they have access to it. And then they were basically talking about how it has boosted their performance and all that. So that's what I was talking about.
Okay.
Weren't we talking about the AMD versus?
Yeah,
Oben was asking about the
AMD versus Intel, right? Yeah. So I was. So I was mentioning that. So currently Intel uses 10 nanometer chips, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the system, the architecture that they are using. And
Apple uses 5.
Apple claims they will start. Well,
yeah, they use 5.
That's for the Mac. That's for the iPad and the phones, right?
And they are saying they're basically transferring that same architecture for Apple Silicon. Why do you think they'll cancel their CPU deal with Intel just so that they could?
Yeah, I know they plan to. I'm just saying, like, let's see how it pans out. If they succeed and they do it, it should be a really good. Like, it should be really cool because it would introduce even more competition into like the CPU space. Because
but Intel has definitely lost their grab on the market. It's crazy.
Oh, they've lost it, but then again, they are still like it's not.
Actually, lost it because they still have some people who purchase their stuff.
Oh no, people definitely still purchase, but then at this point,
right now they are not the dominant player in the market right now, as they used to some years back.
most enthusiast previously, anytime you wanted a recommendation, most people would definitely recommend like an Intel CPU. Now most enthusiasts will recommend like an AMD CPU simply because it gives better performance. And like not even like even with the gaming that has more or less been like that is more or less Intel's last stronghold. Like even then, it's not like the AMD the Ryzen chips are performing like poorly. It's just that Intel has an edge. And as time goes on, that gap is sure to close. And I don't really know if they will still be able to compete with AMD's like 7 nanometer architecture. That's because it's basically a sum game. Like more transistors equals more performance.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like that's always been like the thing with like the electronics. The more transistors you have, the higher performance you can squeeze out. And so if I am packing onto let's say a 1 inch by 1 inch die, I'm packing like 7 nanometer size transistors. I'm going to have more of them as opposed to your 10 nanometer. And so I don't really know. And if the current trend is anything to go by, it's looking almost like AMD is increasing, or in AMD is shrinking the gap that Intel had even more. And unless Intel comes up with something really innovative, it's only going to get like smaller and smaller. It's good for consumers, not so
Oh
good
yeah,
for
definitely good.
Intel.
But I mean, if you check gaming scores, so gaming scores are basically a benchmark gamers give to like
Yeah,
integrated
yeah,
graphics. If you check current, I think the highest right now be the Intel Core i9,
yeah.
1090
1090.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
then yeah.
that
I
one
mean,
has a gaming score of like 100, as compared to the closest is the AMD Threadripper, which is around like 97 or 96%.
and the funny thing is with those ones, the power draw is like immense. It's
Mm-hmm.
they're basically pushing it. I think that was one thing that they really did with like their the 10th generation chips, like the high power ones. They basically squeezing every ounce of performance out of those chips.
Oh yeah, because you have like 32 cores with 64 threads, as compared to I think the Core i9 has 10 cores with 20 threads.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like they are pushing it to the absolute max. Whereas with like as far as the Ryzen chips are concerned, there still might be some amount of performance left because their power consumption is not as high. Their TDP is not as high.
Oh
Their
no, I think the TDP is way higher, because
Ryzen,
yeah, I mean
no, the Ryzen TDP is not as high as this one, the Intel.
no, I'm talking about the Core i9. The Core i9's TDP is I think around 120 something, and third
Okay.
is around 200. I'm not exactly sure, dude. But I know that TDP,
Yeah. So,
the third is way higher.
but then wait, no, I'm not comparing it to the third one. I'm comparing
You're talking about the Ryzen.
yeah, the Ryzen, not the thread ripper. I mean
Uh,
the thread ripper is the competition of the Intel Xeon, right? Yeah,
yeah.
so they are not really in the same performance
Um,
bracket.
Anyway.
But yeah, it's and no, I mean it's going to be an interesting dynamic, like see how it pans out. For me, I'm excited because it basically means if and when I get money and I decide to build a machine or something, I have options.
yeah.
But then when
But
it
the Ryzen
comes to
7 is pushes a lot in terms of performance as
Mhm.
compared to the other Ryzen models.
well, that's true. And when it comes to screen size, what would you go for and why?
Uh, Coming from someone who has used both 16, 15, and a 13-inch, I'll go for a 13-inch. Just
Reason
because,
being,
yeah, I mean, it wasn't for lockdown that I could use my mobility. I wouldn't mind using a 50-inch, but for like if you're someone who's mobile in terms of the fact that you move around a lot and you obviously want a machine that you use for work, and then all that you want to move around with it, you always want a 13-inch. So that's it. And then for my work setup at home right now, I realized that if I was to use a 50-inch, it would be too much screens to look at. Because I don't know how to put it. Having a 13-inch is just cute for like probably I would just want to watch a YouTube video or consume content or something.
Mhm.
I'll switch to like my 13-inch as compared to my should I say my TV display, which is 20, it's 32-inch.
Okay.
So basically that's
That
where I
becomes
move
your
on.
extended display. So that's like so like a docking station.
Yeah, docking station exactly. So
Okay.
like yeah, 32-inch. But for a 60-inch is too much because you all realized how I used to suffer with my 16. No, I was actually 17,
Yeah, that
17.3.
was a that was a 17-inch.
Yeah.
Yeah, carrying her all around and going for class and all that. It was a bit difficult to like carry. Yeah, 13-inch would be better. But when it comes to you also have to think about performance because there's always an offset. I guess because 13
Yeah,
with a
smaller
13-inch,
charges, cooling, less
yeah,
power.
you won't get as
Yeah.
much power as compared to a 17. So those are all the things you have to keep in mind when considering something like that.
I think from a performance, like all round standpoint, typically the 15 or 14-inch models like really make sense.
Yeah, it's a sweet spot.
Yeah, like it's just that it's not too big, it's not too small, and like it's not so small where you have to like sacrifice so much performance because like there's typically space in a 15-inch model for like cooling and all those things. And then it's not like yeah, it's not too big too like it's not too much screen. Because one thing I noticed, I sometimes I'll be watching, I'll be using like maybe I'll be watching a TV or something, and I start to notice the pixels, and I'm like, there's something wrong with this picture. Like I remember when I first like the first time when I had a 13.3-inch like Dell, before I bought my current PC, and I remember the first couple of days when I started using my PC, I was complaining to my friends that there's something wrong with the screen. And
Mhm.
like it didn't really make sense to them. Like they were always on my neck that like I was doing too much. But I should just keep quiet and use the PC. But then something felt off to me.
Wait, you said the first it was a Dell what?
Netherlands.
It was a Dell Inspiron 15. No, Inspiron
Is it
13.
the twin one?
Yeah, the twin one that I had.
Okay.
Yeah, like and when I moved to the Aces, I think so I moved to like I bought the yeah when I moved to Aces, I was like there's something wrong with this picture. I don't know, it just feels off. So one time I just went and then I was just looking at I was just comparing the two side by side. Then it actually occurred to me one looked like crisper than the other. They were both the same resolution. They were both 1080p displays. But then because the 13-inch display is a smaller, it's like 1080p crammed into that 13
Yeah.
inch. So it made it look, the pixels looked smaller, everything looked sharper as opposed to this one. So I think, but then I think the 15-inch just gives you the best of both worlds. And if you have like one of the newer ones, which like we have like smaller bezels and lighter materials, portability will not really be too much of an issue.
Mm.
But as I am sitting here right now, if I had a choice, I'll probably buy 13-inch.
Why does carrying yours become a headache?
If I have to carry it for a long period of time.
Okay.
If I have to carry it for a long period of time. So like if maybe I have to walk distance, I start to feel it.
But it also makes it easy for travel. So imagine that you're traveling for work,
True.
and then you need your work laptop or anything. Having a 30-inch makes it easy to add to your luggage as compared
Yeah,
to
it just makes life so much simpler.
Yeah.
Mm.
But then what about you, Jay?
Oh, and the
Carrying.
worst Sorry.
Yeah, Ellie. Oh, go on.
This is probably a pet peeve, but I feel like maybe we will have to come back to it. But I have a problem with like power bricks, the way they are designed.
Dell has a problem with designing power bricks.
It's not only Dell.
No, I just mentioned those I know. Dell
Asus.
is who else?
Asus.
Razer has a problem because a 30-inch Razer is like a 30-inch. The charging brick for a 30-inch Razer style blade is almost the same as a 17-inch. The charging brick for a 17-inch Dell laptop. It just doesn't make sense. But what do I know? I'm not the one making it. So.
No, maybe it's the amount of power entering the system, because they charge with Type C. Okay, Dell to charge with Type C, or
Yeah. I mean, can't they be like Apple and then design? I don't know. I feel like they should
something sleek, something clean. I mean, I get that like you have to house like the transformer to convert from AC to DC and like that unit and the power brick and everything. But like, can't they find a way to make it more?
Because like, sometimes I used to envy, and it's not I used to, I still envy with the MacBooks.
Yeah.
Especially when they switched to Type C, it even became much more wonderful because you could have like a charging brick that fits nicely in your bag and then doesn't consume so much space. And then to extend that, like if you have a small table and then you want to put your charger around, you have more space to like move your hands and all that stuff. But if you have a Dell or Asus or Razer, and you're probably working on a small table or packing it, you don't have to like, I don't know, you need more packing space or more space just to keep your charging brick. This is very annoying.
And they are heavy.
They are heavy. I don't know. I don't know if the Asus or I'll probably pick the Asus or Dell. I think they weigh about 4 kilograms or something. I'm sure you could use it for a dumbbell or something.
Well, not quite a dumb, but like they are heavy. Like it's one of those things where sometimes I put my laptop into my bag. Like I remember when I'll go to class and then like my laptop is in my bag. Sometimes I'm like, oh, today I don't need my power brick. I don't really need to charge it, and it's noticeably lighter without the power brick. It's like it's just big and heavy. I don't really know why there hasn't really been much innovation in that space. Maybe not enough people see it as a problem, but
yeah, possibly.
I don't know.
Possibly, I'm sure that's what the issue is.
It's one of those few things where like it makes you appreciate like the ergonomics of Apple products.
So the one seeing it and it's fine, but me seeing it is problematic. That's interesting.
I am an objective individual. You are
a fanboy.
A fanboy.
I won't call it.
Anyway.
Let us know your take. So 13, 15, or 17.
I'm a 14. 14 is like the sweet spot.
I don't know.
It's like the sweet spot. It's like it's not too small. It's not too big. Like yeah.
It's just clean. It's right there.
It's right there. Yeah, it's right there.
It's just perfect.
I feel a lot of them should be looking at 14 because sometimes 13 can be too small and 15 can also be too big and heavy. But then 14 is quite the sweet spot. I don't know why no one is really concentrating on that. Maybe it will blur out the difference between a 13 and a 15 inch. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think people are asking Apple to do that though, because I feel like once Apple goes in that direction, people will follow. Because they did the same with the chassis for the 13-inch, and then people started, especially if you look at the Huawei MateBook X. It's basically like a replica of the MacBook. Like they copied shamelessly, like keyboard layout. Dell XUSD I mean, that experience too is also.
It's unique. No, it
Yeah.
doesn't.
I
It's
mean,
it's different
it
from the
borrows.
MacBook.
It's
Yeah,
different.
it
Yeah,
borrows.
experience is
Yeah,
different.
but it sort of borrows like keyboard layout and then how compact your MacBook is.
They
I mean,
always say about
obviously,
the
Apple
resembling.
I
started.
mean, there will be similarities. The form
What would
factor, there's
now
not
what
really
would you
that
say
much
about
flexibility.
the resembling stealth?
Yeah, exactly.
That one there
The
looks
reason why
just like
the reason why I don't make that comparison between the Razer Blade and then Apple is because Razer already had that design like for a long time coming.
True, true.
that's true.
So it doesn't mean like I mean I don't know when they started though, but then I won't exactly make the argument that they copied Apple or Apple copied them. But for these other brands that had like a different chassis and all that, all of a sudden they switched up their game and to copy another
Clean
Yeah.
company's design
innovated.
and all that. Like yeah.
I think it was more a recognition of the fact that there was actually a market for smaller laptops. Like it, it, it's well, I think it had become one of those things where when you see a laptop, typically you think like you try to get. I think especially before Apple, and in that sense, Apple has really influenced the markets. Like laptops were fun, and they were
Wait, did you just say
trying.
fun? When
Yes,
they
fun.
bulky,
No,
like the
no, no. When I mean fun, when
Toshiba
I
and
mean
all that.
fun, I mean more like gimmicky, like
Wait,
especially Sony
okay.
Vaio, like those companies, and they try
Wait,
to.
Ellie, sorry to cut you, but does Toshiba still make laptops? I mean,
Yes, unfortunately, they have a few.
Oh,
They have a
serious.
few running
Toshiba
around.
still.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know if any of you have realized Toshiba always has this hinge problem with their laptops.
It was
Like
bad. It was
almost everyone
bad.
I know who has owned a Toshiba has had a problem with their hinge.
Yeah,
One way or the other, their hinge becomes faulty. I don't know why.
it was bad. I think Toshiba. Yeah, I think they make the Dynabook. The Dynabook. They have a few laptop products still floating around there. But like when you look at the Sony Vaio, like they used to, if you look at some of the laptops that they had, like they were really gimmicky, but like they were
Wait,
Yeah.
interesting.
so I was about to
Funny.
say, I remember someone using one.
Oh, I remember the white one.
Yeah, the white one. I remember.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I don't know if you realize it from listening, but if you are listening, you know yourself.
But then yeah, like and then when and we tried to get laptops as close to like desktops as like we could cram as much power. But then it's like Apple made people realize that there was actually a market for thin and light, not as powerful, just portable and usable laptops. And then everybody had to get in on the game.
As
Like we
usual,
had the
Apple
Razer Blade.
sets the bar for the market, and then everyone.
I won't respond to that. That is definitely bait, and I will
Yeah,
not respond to that.
that came from your mouth. You say Apple obviously made a case that like it's possible to make laptops within this form factor and not and not and still have like highly spec laptops and machines. So I don't want to say you're the one saying.
No. The first couple of these ones were not highly spec'd. They were stripped down to the bare minimum.
Oh, yeah,
the MacBook Air and stuff.
But I mean, with time, obviously,
I mean,
like,
yes.
first actuations are not expected to like give you like high level performance. But for starters, it was good enough to get people thinking about laptop
true.
form factors and all that.
True. Yeah. And then I feel like probably the laptop that really made it like clear that you could have really high performance in a very small factor was the Blade still.
Yeah,
That was what
that's very
got
true.
everyone talking about a small, thin, and light laptop that can game. I mean, who thinks about gaming? But
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for enlightening me. I've been actually quiet because ever since you guys mentioned RTX is bigger than GTX, I'm actually doing certain decisions I made. So, so
Yeah,
that's
but
actually
I mean, if you were to be gaming, though, I'm sure you'd have come up
no,
with
me
Known,
something.
yeah, you would
not
have known.
necessarily exactly, but me, I need if I'm to if I'm looking at getting something, at least it to be like the maximum but cheapest. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I mean, and in that sense, I feel like like one actual like, that's probably one of the reasons why gaming laptops have become so popular. It's kind of the Asus ROG phone.
Mhm.
Games need like high
Yeah.
specs,
Refresh
so
rate
you
and all
give
that.
so like you make a high spec phone that is like that can game, and as a consequence, it's also good for other stuff.
I think Ellie, please just mute yourself. I've muted you. All right. Guys, thank you so much for listening to us on this episode of the Self Turnover. So myself, that's your being Eli Klinga and then Silas Benpon. And the discussion was really about, we're actually discussing something before we started recording and decided to bring it onto this episode. We hope you enjoyed it and it actually helped you
I,
understand certain
I
things.
just hope we didn't let out too much.
Oh no! I doubt you did. Even if you did. There's Google, so they'll look at the keywords and go and search for it, and you all be part of the learning experience. All right, so guys, that's a wrap from us. Goodbye.